If you ever get butterflies in your stomach, then you are witnessing the brain-gut connection. And I'm going to tell you some amazing stuff to help you improve this, because it's been shown that the gut can help improve depression, help prevent Parkinson's, and also can be related to getting rid of things like OCD, post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a whole load of things going on in the gut that basically allow your brain to function properly. So, first of all, hello, I'm Chris. Recently, I've been reading a lot of articles about the connection between the gut and the brain, but also some new stuff about the connection between muscle and the brain, and also fat cells and the brain, and also the liver and sleep. And sorry, the Zs are back to front. I originally did this on Facebook, and so I've started presenting these in my Facebook group, and I'm going to be releasing these as YouTube videos as well. So kind of all interlinked, and they really help show how interconnected everything is. But today, let's talk about the brain-gut connection. So, first, really got interested in gut health when I came across a book called The Second Brain, and this was in an interview between their, still head of the Institute of Functional Medicine and the author of the book. So this was, 20 years ago or so. And since then, we've learned not only has the gut got huge amounts of connections in itself, and basically acts like a second brain in so many ways, but also there's a nerve that connects the brain to the gut called the vagus nerve. Now, we've already known about this for a long time, but what we're also now finding is that the vagus nerve, which comes from the brain and most of your internal organs, if not all of them, also talks from the gut up to the brain. And so we're now thinking that things like Parkinson's actually start in the gut, and it's through stuff happening in the gut, talking through the vagus nerve into the brain, that somehow is related to causing Parkinson's. And this is why understanding how to keep your vagus nerve healthy is very important for the whole of your health. So somebody said, one of the many things that I've read, high vagal tone equals high living potential. So there are many ways to look after the vagus nerve, from eating healthily, but also thinking healthily and breathing exercises. So if you're really interested in getting your vagus and the brain-gut neural connection working, then reach out. So that's just one of the connections. There's also the stuff living in your gut. Now, most people today have heard of probiotics, the good, friendly bacteria, and they know that it's related to digestive health. We're also now beginning to realize how much inflammation there is in the gut, and sometimes when you start getting the right bacteria in the gut, inflammation can decrease not just in the gut, but the rest of the body as well, including the brain. However, we've now also found out that there are specific types of bacteria that really do seem to talk to the brain. There's one type that basically tells the brain to eat lots of food and put on lots of weight. And we found that, not me personally, but scientists have found, but by basically taking the bacteria from thin mice, okay, so the insides of the colon, actually taking out everything on the inside of the colon, and actually a poo transplant, taking the poo from thin mice and putting it into the guts of a fat mouse, and basically the fat mouse becomes a thin mouse. And they've also done vice versa, I believe, and they're now doing this in humans. You can basically have a fecal transplant. You can take the poo out of a person who's overweight, and you can basically take the poo from a thin person, stick it up, and basically you end up with another thin person. So we know that bacteria talk to the brain to help decide what food you eat, but we now know that certain kinds of bacteria that are called psychobiotics, and this was first coined, I think, in 2011, basically psychobiotics, they talk to the brain and they basically tell the brain to be happy or sad. And the right kinds of bacteria help basically your brain to be happy. So it's really important that you've got the right bacteria in your gut so that you stay the same weight, or stay a healthy weight, and you also start thinking healthily as well. But they've also found that these bacteria and what's happening in your gut may be related to getting rid of obsessive OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I know I have a patient who one of the nutrients that I use that helps feed the gut bacteria. Here's OCD is much better. Then you have post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, basically where you're stressed out from something that's happened to you in the past can actually be because of your gut bacteria that got changed, because we now know that your brain can actually change your gut bacteria too. It goes both ways. It's amazing. But there's a whole autism as well, ADHD, there's a whole range of things. And basically this is thanks to a book. I listened to a podcast about the book, and it's called, what's the name of the book? This Is Your Brain on Food. So check out This Is Your Brain on Food on Amazon if you want to learn more. So how do you actually make sure that your gut bacteria are healthy? Yes, you can take probiotics, but there's something more fundamental than probiotics, and that's basically what they live on. And research on twins, not just some twins, but it's research that was done on 30,000 twins. The twin study, led by Professor Tim Spector in the UK, and I've spoken about this before. He basically was looking at twins to see how much of people's health is actually to do with genetics. And so a lot of the twins are identical twins. And they found out that genetics plays a secondary role to your lifestyle, and in particular, what's happening in your gut. And it's actually the bacteria in your gut and your gut health are more important to your health than your genetics. One of my patients is one of the twins that's been in this study for years and years and years, and they're actually doing some more research right now on gut health and how it affects your health. And so the most important things they found to actually help promote gut health is increasing your fiber. No matter how much fiber you have, he said basically just try doubling it. Try increasing the amount of fiber in your diet and see if you just get healthier. The recommended daily allowance or amount of fiber in the UK is 30 grams, but when you go to places in Africa, India, there are tribes that are eating 60 grams a day at least. So he said, look, even if you're meeting the requirements of 30 grams a day, try 60 and move it up slowly. The other thing was 30 different types of plant throughout the week. So the more plant variety you have, so this is fruits and vegetables, but it can also be nuts, seeds, it can also be herbs and spices as well. The more variety that you actually get in your diet plant-wise, the better your gut bacteria. So the gut is the second brain. There's certainly a link to the brain, Psychobiotics. You want to increase your fiber, you want to increase your variety. You should know that high vagal tone equals high living potential, and there's lots of ways to improve vagal tone. And finally, this is all about prevention, not desperate intervention. The way that modern medicine works is basically you have to be really sick, so sick that you've got a disease. And by that time, you might need drugs, you might need surgery. But basically, what you may actually need is just if you start preventing the whole cacophony of things that go wrong, then you're going to live a longer, healthier life. Now, I'm just going to leave you on one more thought here. While I was doing some research for this, there was a podcast I was listening to, and I think it was from the book, was The History of the Stomach, which I think is more of a textbook than anything else. But the podcast people basically spoke about the history of all of this brain-gut connection. Now, for us, it's practitioners, it's actually quite modern. And for some doctors, a lot of doctors don't even really know about this connection between the gut and the brain and all these disorders that they're trying to treat with drugs up here. It may actually just be you need to change your diet and you feel a lot better. Blood pressure. There's bacteria that can actually lower your blood pressure as well and look after your heart, all sorts of things. But they actually seem that this research and doctors treating mental disorders, depression, by actually giving fermented foods and fermented milks actually goes back to Victorian times. That doctors were actually, and there were actually products that people could buy that were fermented bacteria, basically fermented milks, to improve their mood. And there was even one doctor that was removing people's bowels to basically cure their depression. And I think he cured about a third third of people's depression, but unfortunately quite a lot of people died by having their bowel removed. So there you go. I don't recommend having your bowel removed to cure depression. There are better ways now. We know that it's actually about just changing the bacteria in them, not removing the bowel itself. So if you would like some help improving the gut-brain connection, then reach out. I'm Chris at Body in Balance and Beat Blood Pressure. You can call us on 01 707 662 704, and there'll be some links probably below and around here somewhere to join the Facebook group, see the website, etc. Okay, be well and live with magnificent health.